Now, as if the saga of Stormy Daniels isn't odd, kind of creepy, and gross enough, there are some new details. Now, don't worry. This doesn't fall into any of those categories, except for odd, right? But it could also get maybe Donald Trump into a little bit of trouble, possibly. So let me explain what this is about. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, Stormy Daniels is, of course, a porn star that allegedly had claimed that she had slept with Donald Trump. That's gross. Nobody wants to think about that. I'm not quite interested in the salacious details. But again, there is some weird things surrounding this. And this story pretty much involves a payment of hush money that supposedly came from Trump, or now, as we know in the details, Trump's lawyer. Now, the New York Times reports that Michael Cohen, that's President Trump's longtime personal lawyer, had just admitted that he had been the one to pay $130,000 out of his own pocket to Stormy Daniels. Now, they said in the most detailed explanation of the 2016 payment made to the actress, Stephanie Clifford, who is also Stormy Daniels, of course, that's her real name, 130, let's see, sorry, Mr. Cohen, who worked as counsel to the Trump organization for more than a decade, said he was not reimbursed for the payment. So he pays $130,000 to this porn star. Or allegedly, well, no, not allegedly, he actually did. Because he's out there admitting it. He's like, yes, this is my own money. I gave her $130,000 because I didn't want these allegations to get out. Now, it gets interesting because he says, well, I didn't want the allegations to get out, even though I don't actually believe the allegations, but I'm getting ahead of myself, right? Now, he said in a statement, neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign was a party to the transaction with Ms. Clifford, and neither reimbursed me for the payment, either directly or indirectly. So he's like, yeah, I gave her the money. I didn't tell the campaign. I didn't tell Donald Trump. And so I got no money from either of them. So look, I just gave her $130,000 out of my own pocket. Okay. Fascinating. Now, the reason that he's coming out and saying this is because he's been, it's been alleged that this is actually a campaign contribution, which could get the Trump campaign in a little bit of trouble. So this was actually brought to by Common Cause. They're saying, hey, that money, that hush money, was a campaign contribution. So we're going to go to the FEC and we're going to see what's going on here, right? We're going to get all the information about this so that what? We can nail Trump? Odds are you're not going to get him with anything, but okay, fascinating. Anyway, now Cohen said in a statement to the New York Times, pushing back against that, saying the payment to Ms. Clifford was lawful and was not a campaign contribution or a campaign expenditure by anyone. Now, they also note that he declined to answer several follow-up questions. That's no surprise, including whether Mr. Trump had been aware that Mr. Cohen had made the payment, why he made the payment, or whether he had made similar payments to other people over the years. So that opens the possibility that there is more than one. Oh no, what if there is more than one? Oh boy, I don't even want to think about that. So that's interesting because it's a straight up non-denial. I'm not even going to answer the question. Well, why didn't you answer the question? Again, if you're sure, like if you didn't tell Donald Trump, then just go and say, Donald Trump has no idea that I made this payment on his, not even on his behalf. Because if you made it on his behalf, then it could be construed as a campaign contribution. So I guess you can't even go and do that. Because then it raises those questions. Well, if you made the payment on his behalf and he knew, well, then it could be a campaign contribution. How do we know that you didn't pay this woman to shut up, to not have these allegations out there at his behest to try to protect his campaign? So it gets weird, okay? So it does get really strange and complicated. Who knew it would be so complicated? Now, Mr. Cohen has also previously said that Trump had denied the affair with Ms. Clifford, She said the affair took place soon after Mr. Trump's wife, Melania, gave birth to the couple's son. Of course, that's the timing on that. Look, again, I don't want to go too personally into this because the personal details I don't really care about. You cheat on your wife, I'm like, that's your business, dude. That's not my business. I'm a progressive. I'm not going to judge who you have sex with and when. Although I do have to say that, look, personally, in my personal opinion, bad timing. I mean, there's never a good time to cheat, but boy, is that bad timing. But like I said, there's a million things to judge Donald Trump on, substantively and policy-wise, where you could definitely have a negative opinion of Donald Trump, what he does in the bedroom. I don't even want to think about that, right? But anyway, now, this does have a bit of an implication, I guess, and it shows how much of a liar President Trump is. Now, he denies the affair, of course, but then at the same time, if there wasn't an affair, why did Cohen pay her off? See, it brings up that question, right? And how is it that Trump himself did not know that she was paid off? And it brings up some really fishy things when it comes to the story. So, more fishy stuff is how the payment was made. According to CNN, Cohen had set up an LLC in Delaware as a limited liability corporation. So it's a shell corporation, basically, in Delaware. Now, why Delaware? Well, they happen to have the laxest laws when it comes to corporations. So basically, he sets up this shell company, and he puts that money into the shell company, and the shell company pays Miss Clifford. Now, that's incredibly shady and weird, but is it illegal? Well, that's where we get into a bit of a gray area, and that's what Common Cause is actually trying to find out with this suit. Now, if the point of the payment was to keep Clifford's interview from getting out, then it is possible that this could be considered a campaign contribution and a violation of campaign finance laws. Now, Cohen, of course, using his own personal funds for the payment, could be viewed as a donation of $130,000 to the Trump campaign, even if it's not actually passing through the Trump campaign. Now, that would be more than the maximum allowed of a donation, which is $2,700. Now, Cohen furthermore says, look, I don't believe these allegations. He said, just because something is true doesn't mean that it can't cause you harm or damage. So he denies the allegation, but then adds that onto it. And says in a statement, quote, I will always protect Mr. Trump. Fascinating. So, now, when you think about it, what kind of harm could the story getting out potentially do? Again, he said, just because something isn't true, and I don't believe it's true, he says, that doesn't mean that it can't cause you harm or damage. Well, look at the timing when this when this payment happened. It was several months before the election. You don't think there's something fishy with that timing going on? And again, what could it potentially do? Well, it could hurt his presidential campaign. I mean, again, potentially, right? Now, personally, I don't think it would have had much of an impact since the Access Hollywood tape, in the end, didn't matter. Trump still won the election. He still did fairly well. And so, I mean, there are reasons that, some people just didn't care about that. As far as its evangelical base, now you might be wondering, wait a minute, if there are good Christians that are backing President Trump, why wouldn't they be affected by this? Well, those are the same people that believe that God chose Donald Trump to be president. God can't be wrong. So they don't care. He could literally shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and they wouldn't care. Well, he was destined to do that anyway. So, okay, so those are the people that don't care, right? Now, as far as the legality goes, the payment did not go through his campaign. None of it touched his campaign coffers. So how could it be a campaign contribution then if it didn't actually go through the campaign? Well, Thomas Frampton recently explained in a post in the Harvard Law Review blog about a case that might be relevant to this one. Now, this was the case. You guys remember John Edwards? Super, super creep, right? Now, John Edwards had corruption charges. Apparently, he had an affair, and some of his big donors tried to help him cover it up. Sounds familiar. Now, he said, and this is, of course, he's using what the description of a campaign contribution actually is under the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971. So here's what he writes. He said, FECA's definition of contribution includes any gift, subscription, loan, advance, or deposit of money, or anything of value made by any person for the purpose of influencing any election for federal office. Importantly, there is no requirement that a contribution be labeled as such or that the money actually pass through a campaign's coffers. A third-party payment of a candidate's campaign or personal expense qualifies as a contribution, except where the payment would have been made irrespective of the candidacy. Now, they ultimately did not find that the payments related to John Edwards and his covering up his mistress and all that, they didn't find that it was a campaign contribution. Nonetheless, they could find that this is. Now, they said irrespective of the candidacy, right? So basically what they said is, look, would Michael Cohen have paid off Miss Clifford if Trump was not running for office? We don't know the answer to that question. Maybe, maybe not. If he did, I mean, if he was going to anyway, without Trump knowing, that's the allegation, of course, then we wouldn't be having this discussion because, look, he would have been running for president. So maybe it would have been in a tabloid paper somewhere. I don't know. It's not like it isn't already, but here's the weird thing, though, about this, right? He did say that he would always protect Trump. So, look, if you're asking for my opinion, which I guess you are, since you're watching, it seems like he did this to protect Trump's candidacy, which, in that case, to me, it sounds like a campaign contribution. So, that said, I think it's a campaign contribution. There's a lot of people that might think it's a campaign contribution, but in the end, does it actually matter? Well, I would say no at the end of the day. Here's why. The likelihood of this being pursued is slim to none. They're not going to go after Trump for this. They're not going to go after him for any of this. So I guess the point is, why is Common Cause wasting their time going after this? Look, I understand, right? I want to get old money out of politics. I want to make sure that we eliminate all contributions. It doesn't matter. Union, corporation, individual, doesn't matter. So we can clear up this entire thing and clear out that corruption. But I think what Common Cause is doing is that they're going after Trump because they're going after Trump. I don't know if they're actually there to clean up the system or not. I don't know. I'm not Common Cause, so I'm not going to speak on their behalf. But even if it's successful in proving that this is indeed a campaign contribution, well, then what are they going to do? Well, the FEC right now is a mess. It's a disaster. So they won't enforce any kind of campaign finance law. So what, I guess, is the point? I don't know. And look, at the end of the day, this is even the most major scandal of the Trump presidency. We have gone after scandal after scandal after scandal. This is the most scandal-ridden presidency, and it's only been a year. It's been insane. This kind of shows you how far we've actually gone into swamp territory. Imagine then, again, the smallest Trump scandal would be the biggest scandal of the Obama presidency. The biggest real scandal. What we had in the Obama administration was, again, the tan suit controversy. That was a thing. And yet here we have President Trump breaking norms every single day. Breaking campaign finance law, ethics law, Not to mention possible money laundering and things like that, where Mueller is rooting around in his bank accounts right now. So at the end of the day, the scandal has become normal. So in Trump world, paying off porn stars would be the least of our concerns. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.